The Roman legions finally breached the gates of Numantia. They were led by Scipio Aemilianus, the man who had burned Carthage to the ground. He brought 60,000 soldiers to fight a city of only 4,000 defenders. Scipio expected a bloodbath. He expected a final, glorious charge of barbarian warriors. He expected, at the very least, slaves to parade back to Rome. Instead, as his legions marched into the city, they heard nothing. No screams, no clashes of steel. Just the crackle of fire and the smell of cooked meat. Rome didn't win the Battle of Numantia because the Numantines made sure there was no one left to fight. To understand the end, you have to understand the humiliation that fueled it. For 20 years, Numantia was a glitch in the Roman matrix. Rome was the superpower of the Mediterranean, yet this single hilltop fortress in Spain refused to die. They didn't just defeat Roman generals, they embarrassed them. They forced peace treaties that Rome had to shred in shame. The Numantines were Celtiberians, fierce, independent, and masters of their terrain. They believed that a life without liberty was a life not worth living. Rome had enough. The Senate didn't send another politician. They sent their cleaner, Scipio Aemilianus. He wasn't there to negotiate. He looked at the geography of Numantia and decided that he wouldn't fight the warriors. He would fight their stomach. Scipio arrived and immediately threw away the rulebook. He refused to engage in skirmishes. Instead, he ordered his men to build. He constructed a 9-kilometer continuous wall around the city. It wasn't a barricade. It was a feat of engineering intended to suffocate a civilization. Towers every 100 feet, 7 distinct camps, deep ditches studded with spikes. But the true genius and the true cruelty was the river. The Numantines were excellent swimmers. Their plan was to dive into the river Douro, swim past the Roman lines, and bring back reinforcements. Scipio knew this. He strung massive nets across the width of the river. But these weren't fishing nets. They were rigged with rows of knives and spearheads. When the current pushed a swimmer into them, the blades did the work. The river turned red, and the Numantines realized the terrifying truth. The world outside had ceased to exist. Inside the walls, the timeline of civilization began to rewind. First, the grain ran out. Then, the livestock vanished. Then, they boiled the leather of their shields and the furs off their backs, chewing on tough hide just to trick their stomachs. As the hunger turned into starvation, the social contract broke. The warm meat of the recently deceased became the only source of protein. Then, they stopped waiting for people to die naturally. The weak, the sick, the old. They became sustenance for the warriors. Scipio watched from his tower. He knew exactly what was happening. He denied their requests for a battle. He denied their requests for a champion's duel. He simply waited for the math to finish its equation. But the Numantines had one final weapon left: agency. If they couldn't choose how they lived, they would choose how they died. They realized that surrender meant slavery. It meant being paraded through Rome in chains. So, they set the city on fire. Fathers killed their families to save them from Roman cruelty, then killed themselves. It wasn't a panic, it was a pact. A systematic cultural suicide. When the fire died down and the Romans entered, Scipio was furious. There was no gold to plunder. There were no kings to chain to his chariot. There was only ash and silence. Scipio Aemilianus wiped Numantia off the map. But in doing so, he immortalized them. He built a wall to keep them in, but history has never let them go.